Let's just focus in again on the floods. Now, I don't divide this as New South Wales and Queensland. Let's look at it as a whole. 13 people have died thus far in the floods. 2,000 people in New South Wales, currently uninhabitable are their homes, according to the Premier. According to the state government in Queensland, $2.5 billion is the cost of what they are going to have to pay for. And I'm sorry to say, for the second week in a row, we have to go live to the rain radars because they are not good. Right now, as you can see, there is an absolute deluge which is making its way across Sydney. It's particularly difficult around places like the mid-north coast and then even into places like Tamworth in New South Wales. You can see at the very top some rain has come, but it will return to the far north of New South Wales. The images today that we saw were from Wiseman's Ferry to the northwest of the city. This is the local bolo that is currently underwater. The high water mark could be at least a metre above that at about 3 o'clock tomorrow morning. Also, you can see the local golf club absolutely flooded over. Emergency services and locals doing what they do to take care of those who they know and don't know, friends, strangers and family alike. The Prime Minister, when he gets out of COVID isolation in a couple of days, will be going straight to northern New South Wales. That's his first port of call. Remember where Albo went when the floods were on, playing politics in Western Australia. Now, on top of this, though, is a very deliberate attempt from some people to try to bring up the ghosts of the bushfires from a couple of years ago and try and make that the next political weight around the Prime Minister. It is a disgrace what they are doing. The Turnbull Times, the ABC, all the rest are now starting to say that something apparently went spectacularly wrong here, that what you have seen with your own eyes didn't happen, that the ADF was nowhere to be seen, that the SES wasn't there to help, that there hasn't been hundreds and hundreds of people that have been taken care of, and I would say thousands of people that have been saved because of the response of state and federal government. Is it ever perfect? No. But what exactly do these people in the media demand? A perfect example of this over-the-top reaction, and a reaction which is deliberately about trying to stir up the bad politics of the past couple of years ago. It's nothing to do with the actual people on the ground. And you know that this is not something I've just started talking about tonight. We talked about this when the first floods started a couple of weeks ago. We talked about it every night. A television presenter decided to jump onto social media today and make the link. She says there, locals cleaning up versus ScoMo's cleanup. Come on. A real leader. Now, the reality is this has been the response of the ADF. This has been the response of the SES. Perfect? No, because they're not there exclusively to take care of my house or your house. That's not their job. They have to respond to a natural disaster. They have to cover a country as big as ours. Simultaneously, remember, Queensland was first, the sunny coast, Brisbane, then northern New South Wales. Northern New South Wales is worse than what happened in Queensland. No pretending. But because of the rain that was there in the first couple of days, there were limits about the number of helicopters that could be used. But this is the reality of what the Defence Force has been doing. Instead, there are smartasses on social media who take photos being taken of the ADF doing this very work, claiming that they're doing it for photo ops, not actually helping people. Well, for those like the former TV presenter, this is what the ADF are doing tonight. According to their very own stats that they put out each and every day, you can get this on the Defence Force's website. This is no one making it up. It is what they are telling us. There are currently 1,378 troops on the ground in Queensland. There are 637 in New South Wales. The clean-up effort, because it is happening in Queensland right now at a different pace. That's why there are more people there, but those numbers will improve. But again, for those smart Alex, and this infuriates me, how people are denigrating the ADF. But right now, today, they were involved in cleanups in Esk, Fairfield, Grattan, Gunda, Grantham, Gympie, Ipswich, St Lucia, Rockley, Ashgrove, Gap and Moreton in and around Brisbane. In New South Wales, the ADF were doing food drops today in Mullumbimby, in Murwillumbah, in Crabs Creek, in Ocean Shores, in Wardell, in Kyogle, in Nimbin, among other places, Woodburn you can see, as well as the clean-up effort in Lismore, Port Macquarie, Grafton, Tweed Heads, Cables Creek, Ocean Shores, Chindra, Murwillumbah, Coffs Harbour, Grafton, Port Macquarie. Surprise, surprise, when the facts were actually pointed out to the former television personality, she apologised, suggesting that it wasn't about the ADF, it was all about just a whack on ScoMo. Now, I'm not going to put up with this. Not because I want to slavishly defend the Prime Minister, but because there is a reality that we have to deal with here. What is the expectation? If there have been failures, and there will be because no disaster is the same, then we learn from it. Should there be more money spent on flood mitigation? You bet. But who fights floods and dams? Who fights the raising of dam walls? It can be activists in parts of the community who end up making the whole community suffer, and smartasses on social media like this television presenter. The men and women of the Defence Force are doing an incredible job. The idea that people automatically want to make it about politics because they say, if we can make the floods in 2022 like the fires in 2020, we'll get him. That we'll get him being ScoMo. Now, seriously, watch the media as they try to make this the story this week. It is disgraceful that they're going to do it, and you know that they're going to do it. You know it's going to get louder, and you know it's going to get more political. You know that whatever happens when the Prime Minister finally gets to the floodwaters because he's been in COVID isolation for a week, thankfully him and his family are okay health-wise now, we're going to see some confrontation, no doubt, with somebody who has lost everything, who is going to be angry. And why wouldn't you be angry? You've lost everything. But it is no politician's fault. Not state, not federal, not Liberal, not Labor. I deliberately don't say Greens because they fight every single effort to try to avoid situations like what has happened in northern New South Wales and in Queensland in the past couple of days. We will, as I promised, recheck in with the community. We will keep doing this regularly. We'll have a chat to the Mayor in Lismore a little bit later. What does he want on the ground? What does he need? And if there are some holes, let's talk about it. But let's not try to fall for the game that I think is going to become the dominant news story, sadly, domestically in the next little while.